Hey guys.
What's going on, guys?
So today we are going to, did my voice just kind of crack today? So,
What are you, Katharine Hepburn?
So we are going to kind of talk about our hammock camping a little bit.
Yep.
If you've watched our videos, you know that we love to hammock camp, but in Florida it is hard to do because it's so hot. So it's a perfect weekend here, and we're going to do some hammock camping and show you how to kind of set them up, why we chose, what we
The mistakes
did.
we made. We made lots of mistakes
so,
to get to this point.
We'll try not to make it too lengthy.
Yep.
But so if you want to learn a little bit of something, little bit of
Little bit of honey.
come join us. And you'll know that I can't really speak, so bye.
Hey guys. Why did I do that? So we mentioned that we're going to hammock camp tonight, and it is really the most comfortable way to sleep. Your entire body is supported, you're insulated from the ground, it's not hard, it's incredibly comfortable. And it all starts with picking the right place to hang your hammock. When Amy and I come camping, we typically look for spots that we think about how our hammocks will be set up when they're all done and our tarps are over top of us to make sure we don't have conflicts, that the trees aren't too close together and those kind of things. But one of the most important things is making sure the trees are the right distance apart, because that allows you to get the right angle on your straps and have your hammock hang just right. So typically we look for trees. I got big feet, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, go show how you do it.
About 6 paces apart is kind of our rule of thumb. So we've already measured this out, so I know this works. So I'm going to hang from this tree, and so that's about 7 spaces, right? One thing to think about is when you're hanging your hammock with a strap is how big is the tree. The bigger the tree, the more of your strap you're going to consume going around that tree. So that's 7 spaces, but the trees are pretty thin, so I'm not really worried about having enough strap to hang.
Yeah, so like this other tree right here, this one, yep.
Amy's going to hang from here.
And then the other side is really big as well, so that is right at 6.
It's a little bigger, so yeah, it's pretty much right at 6. So bigger trees, you got to be a little closer together. If they're smaller trees, you can be a little bit farther apart. And we'll hang some hammocks and we'll give you an idea of how we do it. The angle of the straps is really important. We'll talk about that a little bit. Show you all of our gear, why we have it, what it does, and just talk about the experience of hammock camping. So this is our hammock. It's made by War Bonnet, and it's the El Dorado. It's really intended for sleeping. It's not intended for just taking to the park for a day and hanging out. It's intended for sleeping. It allows you to do what they call an asymmetric lay.
Fancy.
Say that fast 5 times. It basically means rather than laying head to toe with one tree here, one tree there, you're laying in the same, angles of trees. You actually lay at an angle, and it basically gives you a much flatter lay, so you're not bananaed inside the hammock. So when we hang them, we always hang it head first. So as I pull it out of the bag, this is the head side. At some point we'll get smart. There's a lot of hammockers that get a red carabiner, and red is head. We've not done that yet because we're lazy. But anyway, but when we pack them up, we make sure we pack them so the bottom is your feet and the top is your head. So let's hang this bad boy.
And never, ever, ever, ever nail something into the tree to put your hammock up. These don't do any damage to the tree. It's just a strap.
So I can tell right now, I'm going to just shorten these straps a little bit.
Yeah, the last time we used them, the trees were really far apart.
All right, so the hammock is hung, and one of the kind of tricks of the trade, or one of the objectives, is basically have the hammock hanging so when you're sitting in it, your feet are just touching the ground. That's how you know your hammock's the right height. And good hammocks for sleeping will have what they call a ridge line, which is this line that goes from one end of the hammock to the other.
And sometimes I think you have to put that on there. It doesn't come with it necessarily.
Sometimes, correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And you know you have a good hang in your hammock if you can sit in your hammock and the ridgeline is tight, but it's not like a guitar string. You actually can bend it just a little bit. That's how you know you have a good hang on your hammock. If the pulley strap's too tight, this ridgeline gets too tight. So you want to have it so the ridgeline just has a little bit of give in it. And then ultimately, on the straps themselves, when you're hanging from the tree, you want to be able to take your finger like a gun, basically a 90-degree angle. And if you have a 90-degree angle on your strap, then it's a good hang. Otherwise, if I put this way up higher, it's going to be hanging down way too tight. So you want to make sure that when you pick the height for your straps and the tightness of your straps, that when it's all said and done, you're at a 45-degree angle. It doesn't really matter if it's close to one tree or another. And then also, you also want to hang your hammock so that your feet are slightly higher than your head. After a long day of hiking, your feet are slightly higher. It does a few things. One, your body slides down kind of into the pocket of the hammock, so you're not constantly trying to fight yourself. If you had your head high, you'd be sliding down towards your feet. So by having your feet a little higher, it slides down, your body just kind of falls into a pocket inside the hammock. And also because your feet are higher, the blood flows from your feet down into your heart and the rest of your body, and it gives your feet a rest after a long day of hiking. So we mentioned we bought War Bonnet Eldorado hammocks. One, because they give us that asymmetric lay. You can lay on an angle, makes it nice and flat, but also they have an integrated bug net. So this bug net is integrated into the hammock. So if you're hanging in a buggy area, you zip that up, you're good to go. The bug net is supported by that ridge line, so the bug net doesn't fall into your face. Last thing is, and we've made some mistakes, our first hammocks were Eno hammocks with like a cocoon bug net that fit over top of the whole thing, and it just kind of draped down into your face the whole time, and I felt like I was in a coffin. It just wasn't a good experience for me. So these hammocks, by laying on an angle, having the bug net really well supported by the ridge line, but also they have this tie-out strap that once you're in it, you take this tie-out strap and it ends up pulling that bug net away from your face. So once you're inside there, it's super comfortable. The bug net isn't anywhere near you, and it's just a really incredible way to sleep. Okay, the hammock is hung. I'm happy with the way it's all hung. Angle's good, ridge line's good. So now it's time to start making the actual bedding to make sure that you have a nice, comfortable, warm sleep. So one of the things that makes your hammock comfortable is making sure that you're insulated from underneath. If you lay in a hammock, go to the park, even a little breeze will make your backside pretty cold. So you can do that a few ways. You can get a sleeping pad and put it inside your hammock, and that works. For us, it's kind of crinkly and it kind of defeats the purpose a little bit of hammocking. Or you can get what they call an under quilt, which is basically, it's kind of like a sleeping bag underneath your hammock.
On the outside.
On the outside. Yeah. If you just lay in your hammock with a sleeping bag, what happens is your body compresses that sleeping bag on the bottom, and eventually it more or less defeats the purpose of the sleeping bag. You want a cushion of air between you and the cold. So we bought under quilts from War Bonnet, the same manufacturer as the hammocks. We tried some DIY under quilts, which they worked okay. They didn't work great. So we bought War Bonnet under quilts specifically because they're meant for this hammock. So when we're laying at an angle, the cushion, the padding, the down material is on the same angle as we are. So it's meant for this. So it's one, it's super easy to install, and two, when you lay at an angle, all the cushion, all the insulation is exactly where you need it.
Let's see how easy it is to install.
Let's see how easy it is. That was tempting. So here is our under quilt. And I have to find my logo. I typically put it in the bag the same way we do our sleeping bag. So with War Bonnet, wherever this tag is the head side of the hammock. It's the head side of the under quilt. So in this case, this is the head side.
And these are 20-degree quilts. It's only going to be 60 today. Probably could use something different, yes. But the 20 has been really universal for us. so easy to put up. And then when you sit down, the trick when you sit down, because it's the same color as the tent, I mean the hammock.
It doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't, but ours is. They say to make sure that you're actually pulling the hammock and not sitting in the underquilt.
Yeah, there's not much support in the underquilt. So that's it. So now the underquilt is under the hammock. So when I get in my hammock, you can see all that padding, all that down material is right underneath where my body's going to be. It starts at the head, ends up way over here on this angle.
Yeah, hold that side up. So see how it's, no, the other side. Yeah, see how there's not much there? It's all at the angle.
Right. So when I'm laying, I'm going to be laying at that angle. So my feet will be there, and my head will be down here. So that's the direction that the down is on this underquilt. And it just makes for a super comfortable sleep. All right, so top quilt. Top quilt is basically like a sleeping bag, but there's no zipper. So you can use it like a sleeping bag. You can use it like a blanket. Super incredibly comfortable. Our top quilt is from a company called Enlightened Equipment. I can't recall whether it's a 20 or a 30 degree top quilt, but if you've ever slept with a cloud on top of you, that's what this feels like. So go back and look for one of our videos. What was it? Mayaca Forest State Park. And we got out of our hammocks, and it was a cold morning, and we had some breakfast and some coffee, and then went right back to the hammocks. It was incredibly
I'll link it above too. So.
So between the bottom quilt and a good top quilt, it's just a fantastic sleep.
So it doesn't have the zipper on it, but it does have a little area for your feet.
Yeah, so the bottom part of it is sewn together. So
10 inches or so.
Yeah, so your feet are kind of tucked in there. But other than that, it opens up and you can wrap it around you. You can lay it on top of you.
I like the little section for your feet, so that way your feet don't fall out.
Yeah. But yeah, Enlightened Equipment. I wish you could feel this. It's so fantastic. So with a hammock, once you're in your hammock, where do you put your stuff? If you're backpacking, you're hiking, where do you put your stuff? Some people will bring a plastic sheet with them and put the stuff on a plastic sheet. There's no tent for you to put your stuff in. So what we like is, makes this little under hammock storage system.
It's like a little hammock under your hammock.
Imagine a hammock for a 2-year-old. That's kind of what it is. So it literally is just a little hammock. It clips on to the same end like your underquilt does.
And it all folds into the same bag, which is nice.
There's one end.
Yeah, so you can store your backpack there if you're backpacking, or your shoes or your water or something you don't want necessarily in the hammock, but you want easily accessible to you. Sometimes we'll put an extra blanket if we think we might be, bring a smaller blanket and then have another one down there just in case you get cold. Just something you need easy access to.
I bring like my Crocs. I put my Crocs in there because I'm old, and I guarantee at some point in the night nature's gonna call. So I'll put my Crocs in there so I can grab them real easy and go find a tree someplace. I know that was TMI.
Yeah,
but we're
we're friends. We're all friends here.
We're all friends here. But that works really fantastic. It keeps it up off the ground. So in the event it rains, it's dry.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it'll be underneath our tarp, which you'll see in just a minute. And you can fit a lot of stuff inside that thing. All right, so if you want to stay dry when you're hammocking, you're gonna need a tarp.
And it's not just from the rain, but at least in Florida we get a lot of dew.
Yeah, it's humid. Right, exactly. Exactly. So we got a good tarp. It is from War Bonnet also, I believe. So we're apparently War Bonnet fans. And how you hang your tarp is kind of a personal preference. If it's going to be really rainy, you know there's rain coming, you probably want to hang your tarp lower because it'll give you better coverage from the rain and better protection. If you know it's not going to rain, it could be a little dewy but not going to rain, you could put your tarp up higher. It'll keep the dew off of you but also give you more airflow. So the lower your tarp is, the more you're protected, but the less airflow you have. So we're going to hang the tarp and give you a sense for what it looks like. There are stakes, so around here it's really rocky, so you may have to improvise. I'm not sure if I can get a stake into this ground, it's so rocky. So we ended up finding rocks and using those rocks to wrap our guy lines around to actually pitch our tarp. So we'll find out. Okay, so tarp is hung. The goal when you're hanging your tarp, we talked about how high it is off your top of your ridge line, but also you want to make sure that it's even in terms of your hammock. So as you're looking at the tarp, make sure that on both ends you get about the same amount exposed past each end of your hammock. You don't want too much off one end and not enough on the other. So as you hang it, most tarps have an adjustment, so you can adjust it and make sure you get it right where you want it, but you want it to be even over top of your tarp. So our tarps, we have what they call a snake skin, also from Warbond. And it does a few things. So it wraps a hammock, so it makes it really convenient. My tarp's hung right now. I could leave it that way for the whole weekend if it wasn't going to rain, wasn't going to be humid. But if all of a sudden the rain front pulls through or something, or it starts to rain, gets wet, you can pull that snake skin back, which exposes your hammock, or your tarp, I mean. And then very quickly, I can pitch my tarp and I'm dry. One neat thing about hammocking that you can't do with a tent is if you're hiking, you're out and it starts to rain and you're setting up camp and it's raining, you can put your tarp up first and then do everything else underneath it. So your hammock, your top quilt, under quilt, they're all dry. But with a tent, if it's raining, you're stuck out in the rain setting up everything. So with a hammock, you can pitch your tarp. Maybe you're not sleeping there, but it's raining, you want to get out of the rain, throw your tarp up, set your chairs up, rest for a while. But with a hammock, you can pitch your tarp, get some protection from rain, and then work about hanging up your hammock and that kind of stuff. Hey, so it's only been a second since you last saw this face, but we've been really busy. We hung our tarps. You saw us hang them. We talked about snake skins. But when it came to staking out the tarps, the ground's really rocky, but we actually could use stakes. We used a rock to pound in the stakes. They worked pretty well. But then we realized it's such a gorgeous weekend that we wanted a nice breeze. So we improvised. Rather than just taking our tarps and staking them to the ground, we actually have our tarps tied off to trees. There was some adjacent trees that were just about the right length apart. We had to improvise a little bit here and there. But ultimately we have our tarps pitched up really high now.
And that's why it's nice to bring a little extra paracord too, in case you need it.
That's a good point.
We did use some extra.
Yep, had some extra paracord, real thin paracord. And you can't see it, but these red lines, when we bought our tarps, there was actually no guy lines on them at all. They just came with kind of a D-ring at each corner. And we bought reflective paracord and also bought these adjustment devices. I can't recall what they're called, but they allow you to adjust your paracord tarp without tying new knots and trying to tighten it and tie. It's an instant adjustment. So, and the nice thing is at night, when you have your headlamp on and you're walking around your campsite, all these lines on the ground, down the trees from the tarps, they all glow and you can see them.
Which is nice.
Which is really nice.
And right now we have this bag hanging here because
I keep walking
because we have this one hooked up to this tree right here.
We have Frankensteined our tarps. But look how much room there is underneath.
Okay, so we have Joel set up and then we have mine set up too. So we did finish mine as well. So again, the tarp is just a little bit different on mine than it is his, just because of where the trees were.
But there's so much room that air is going to flow through there tonight, and it should be underneath her Enlightened Equipment top quilt.
Yep.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic. So this is our setup for the weekend, and it should be a lot of fun. So we've talked about the asymmetrical lay, which is basically laying at an angle. From this perspective, it looks like Amy's just laying in a hammock like normal, with her feet heading towards one tree and her head heading towards the other. And I'm going to pan around here a little bit, maybe hopefully you get an idea. She's got her top quilt on, which kind of blends in with her hammock a little bit. I don't think she's taking it off. No. But if you look, she's actually not laying straight on. Amy, lay straight on just for a second. That would be straight on.
My feet are way up here.
Her feet are way up there and she's curved. But when you put your feet to the right, now she's laying at an angle in that hammock, which is what the hammock's designed to do. And as a result,
pockets, like there's more fabric over there.
Yeah, there's more fabric. There's literally a pocket that your feet go into. And so when you lay at an angle, you lay a lot flatter than when you're actually laying in the same direction as the hammock's hung. So that is the asymmetrical lay. Good job, Amy. Good job.
All right, so that was a very good video, Joel.
Well, thank you very much. No script.
I was just
all
the
ad lib
videographer on that one. Hopefully you enjoyed our video.
Yep, and learned a little bit about hammock camping, how to set them up, what to look for. If you plan on spending all night in a hammock, make sure you get the right hammock.
Yeah.
One that's really meant for sleeping in. There's a big difference.
Makes a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
And so do a lot of research, and then go out and buy something.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and if you have any questions about anything that we did or anything else, feel free to put comments below. Don't know if we can answer it, but we'd be happy to try.
Well, right. And at the bottom, she's going to put links to all the stuff we have.
Yeah, yeah.
So Amy's good like that.
Yeah.
And,
but yeah, please subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it. And you'll be able to follow all of our other adventures that we do. We do lots of fun stuff, so. All right, thanks again, guys, and make it a glorious day.
See you guys.
Bye.